Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today we are going to be wandering into Sylvanclaw's latest collection called Succulent Garden. This is an 8-piece collection of mixed finishes, mainly in jelly bases, but we do also have a couple of thermals which are technically going to be limited edition. They might come back later if they are popular enough and there's enough demand, so I will talk a little bit more about that at the end of the video after comparisons. For now, let me just show you the swatches. The first polish we have is Variegation, which is described as a jelly thermal that is a true green in the cold state as seen in the bottle that transitions to a yellow green when warm, and it also has a purple shimmer running throughout. As you can probably tell, I am running a bit warm, so you can immediately see the transition colors here. I didn't initially think of calling this a jelly, but you can see that it is a bit more on the sheer side, maybe like a sheer crelly in a way. To me, it just doesn't have the same glassy, transparent look that true jellies do, like the next polish for example, but it is still gonna be a bit sheer on 2 and even 3 coats where you still see a hint of nail line. But I got pretty good coverage for the most part in 3 coats as seen here, and yeah, I actually really love this one. I just thought it had such a cute transition colors. It just feels so fun and fresh and just really refreshing for this time of year. Then we have Koi Pond, which is a jelly thermal that is a blue in the cold state as seen here that transitions to a translucent blue-white in the warm state that's also filled with fire red iridescent flakes and a scattering of holographic glitter. So this is what I would consider a more true jelly kind of base. It is just very sheer but also very glassy at the same time. And like the last polish, I found that this one reacted very quickly to my body temperature where I was running warm, and you can see at least on the first coat and a little bit towards the cuticle area on my second coat here that it just starts to transition to this white, clear sort of color. There's like a hint of blue, of course. Maybe once this was fully dried down and I let my nail run under hot water, it would look less blue, but I really loved the subtle gradient we have going on here. I feel like it almost has a trithermal effect because you clearly see a much darker shade of blue at the tips of my nails. I just thought this was so beautiful. The last thermal in the collection is called String of Hearts, which is another jelly base that's described as a medium pink in the cold state, and it transitions to a pastel pink in the warm state. This also has multicolored iridescent flakies and another light scattering of hollow. So I would say this has the most similar formula to Koi Pond, being a more true glassy jelly kind of finish. Very smooth and easy to apply, super even coverage. It looks lovely no matter how many coats you do, though I will say I did notice the transition on this one was the most subtle, probably because it is just going from a very light pink to a more warm peachy pink. Still cute, and I do love how it accents against the golden flakies in here and the dainty scattered hollow, but yeah, not as bright and stark of a contrast as the previous 2 thermals. Next up we have Ground Cover, which is described as a sheer chartreuse shimmer loaded with color shifting flakes and iridescent glitters. This one is definitely sheer as you can see, but there is still a subtle wash of that chartreuse sort of jelly base going on, and it is absolutely packed with shimmers and flakies. So it builds up surprisingly well on 2 coats where it looks like it just provides more coverage, but you do still see some visible nail line, and it is still there on 3 coats, though it is definitely a bit more obscured. I think also the 3rd coat helps make this color lean a little bit more of like a lime green, but it's still very golden chartreuse because of those shimmers and flakies. The next polish we have is Toxic Barb, which is described as a warm purple jelly with a shattered holographic glitter and teal to blue shimmer. So this definitely has another true glassy sheer jelly base. As you can see on the first coat, there is that subtle wash of that warm purple color, and there is a ton of that holographic glitter in here. I know in the bottle it definitely looks very jam-packed and like a very dark shade of purple, but it is going to take 2 or more likely 3 coats to reach that deeper, richer color. That being said, I think it does look really great and passable on 2 coats, though that could also depend on your application and your nail length, because again, this is a somewhat sheer jelly, but there's just so much glitter and shimmer in here that I feel like 2 coats is going to be passable for a lot of people. But of course, you could also do a 3rd coat, which is going to deepen the color even more, just make it so rich and saturated. It really is such a deep, gorgeous base for all of that sparkle. The shimmer in here was super gorgeous too. I love that it's not subtle. Up next, we have Pebble Path, and this one is described as a lavender gray with purple shimmer and scattered hollow glitters. I would say this is your typical sheer crelly with a shimmer and a dainty hollow kind of finish. We've seen it from different brands, and this is Sylvanclaw's take on it. It has a really smooth formula as expected, just a little bit sheer on the first coat, but you get a nice wash of that lavender gray. I think the shimmer is really pretty. It's not super glowy or contrasty like the last shade, but just a really nice color complement to the base. And while this is described as having hollow glitter, I would say it is definitely that much more dainty, subtle sparkle of hollow. It's not an actual chunky micro glitter. As you saw, I built this up in 3 coats where it provides a lot more coverage. There is still a whisper of nail line, but not so bad. Then we have In Bloom, which is a juicy red jelly with a shattered holographic glitter, which again is what Sylvanclaw calls those little C-shaped or moon-shaped glitters, and they are super sparkly, super holographic. This definitely has another true glassy jelly base, as you can see on the first coat. Pretty decently pigmented, but not the most even coverage on the first coat, surprisingly. I feel like reds usually are incredibly even coverage, but maybe because of those little flakies, I just manipulated it a little too much and kind of had some uneven spots. But it does even out a lot more in 2 and of course 3 coats, which I would definitely recommend if you want to build up the hollow sparkle. It does intensify and deepen the color a little bit more, but of course, because it's a true jelly, you're gonna see straight through to your nail line. And rounding out the collection, we have Holo Rain, which is a clear base polish with silver holographic glitters in various shapes and sizes. I would say they're mostly in the hex shape, just in various sizes, ranging from the very fine, dainty hollow sparkle to slightly larger than that, but they're still in the small range, like they're just micro glitters, I guess. And obviously, this also has these extra long bar-shaped glitters, which kind of add to that falling rain look. I don't usually like a bar-shaped glitter, but I thought it was paired well with these other glitters. Moving on to comparisons, we're starting with Variegation and looking at it next to Mooncat's Jump Jump Bug, which was their green thermal from last spring. It is just a cream, there's no shimmer, but as I'm sure you can tell, it's also a much more muted, like jade green that transitions to a more seafoamy color, so definitely not dupes. I would say the more stark transition colors reminded me of Holo Taco's Funny Feeling, which was from a previous anniversary collection, though the cold state of that one is more of a true teal, turquoise blue color, while it's definitely very green in Sylvanclaw. I would say the warm state of the colors are a little bit closer, but my Holo Taco I think is starting to fade. Then for Koi Pond, I wanted to show it next to a couple of other Sylvanclaw blues, so I pulled out Pond-ering on the left and Wading Through Life on the right. Both are different finishes entirely, not thermals, but they also are more true shades of blue. I feel like Koi Pond isn't looking 100% color accurate here. It almost has a little bit of this turquoise sort of color to it, so I thought something closer would be Mooncat's Don't Cry Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls collab a couple of years ago. That one's another blue jelly flaky, though there are some assorted glitters in the Mooncat while there's just the iridescent flakies in Sylvanclaw, so it's slightly different, but I feel like you could call these cousins. You know, there's some similarity there, but not exact color dupes. Next for String of Hearts, I knew I had to see this next to ILNP's Whisper, which is a warm pink jelly base that's also filled with these golden iridescent flakies and a dainty hollow micro glitter. While they might sound similar on paper, on the nail there is a slight difference where, of course, the Sylvanclaw is a thermal, but it is just more pink leaning, while the ILNP is more peachy. And here it is next to Mooncat's Blossoms Firebreath from the Powerpuff Girls collab, which is their pink jelly with iridescent flakies. As I'm sure you can tell though, these are far from dupes. Moving on to ground cover, here it is next to Sylvanclaw's Bryo-phyte Me, which is another bright green from their collection, but that one's more of a true green with a gold shimmer and also more of a shimmery micro glitter formula, so this is more for color reference. When it came to some closer chartreusey colors, I thought of showing this next to Mooncat's My Bugs, which is a crelly shimmer formula, so definitely not a dupe finish-wise, but just, again, for color reference. My last color reference polish is Holo Taco's Full Charge, which is a lime green linear holo. They might look kind of similar in the bottle, but again, the Sylvanclaw is much more sheer and much more golden leaning because of all these shimmer. I would say the closest polish that I have to a jelly lime green is ILNP Staycation, which is sheer and a jelly, but it does have a silver holo flaky as opposed to iridescent flakies, so I figured I could just add that with Holo Taco's Lunar Unicorn Skin. The flakies are a little too gold. I think the flakies are actually more of a soft pink color in Sylvanclaw, which is actually really pretty. I surprisingly have even more chartreusey jellies to share. Next I have Cirque's Starfruit Jelly, which is a plain jelly, and Cirque's Tart, which is a jelly shimmer graphic, I think. It does also have a very strong pink shimmer going on, which kind of matches the pink of the flakies in ground cover, but obviously very different visually because they're just missing the flakies. So again, I added Holo Taco's Lunar Unicorn Skin on top, as well as Halogen Glow over Starfruit Jelly, just to give it that background shimmer that Sylvanclaw has. And I feel like it was kind of close, like visually the texture is all there. Next for Toxic Barb, this immediately reminded me of Holo Taco's Plum Luck, which is their plum micro glitter formula, kind of in a warm toned purple base. The Holo Taco has more traditional hex glitters, while again the ones in Sylvanclaw are more of the shredded or half moon shape. But the more obvious difference is that Holo Taco does not have any shimmer, so I thought I could try to layer it with Prism Parade's Tainted Thirst from their upcoming collection. It has more of a blue shimmer instead of green, and it was also a bit more subtle and hard to read under the Holo Taco, so I decided to swap it out with Mooncat's Root of All Evil, which is another warm-toned purple base, but this one has a green shimmer that matches better to Toxic Barb, and it's also a lot more glowy, so I tried to just be very careful with doing an extra light coat of Plum Luck on top of it. This combo is still a bit too dark, even if I did 3 coats of the Sylvanclaw. It's not an exact color match, but a close vibe. Moving on to Pebble Path, the other gray crellies with shimmer and dainty holo that I have are Holo Taco's Spirit Fingers on the left and Mooncat's Artemis Deathkiss on the right. The Holo Taco has a little bit of a darker gray crelly base and the shimmer is more of a pink color, while Mooncat has a much lighter, almost whitened gray jelly base with a more closer matching purple shimmer, but it's more finely milled. So I think Pebble Path is kind of a combination of these two. Up next for In Bloom, here it is next to Ladybird, which is a previous Sylvanclaw shade. This one is another red jelly base that does have a micro glitter in here, but it's more of a white and matte kind of finish as opposed to the holographic effect in Bloom. I think the base in Ladybird is a little bit more of a pinky undertone as well, or just maybe slightly darker. And here it is next to Mooncat's Forces of Evil from the Powerpuff Girls collab, which is another red, hot, pinky jelly base color that has these iridescent flakies that are primarily blue and red. They're also a lot larger and more sparse, so definitely not dupes, but kind of a similar vibe. And for some Holo Taco comparisons, I have Naughty List on the left and Private Villa on the right. Naughty List is more of that true dark Christmas red micro glitter kind of finish. The glitter is much more densely packed, but again, overall it's just a lot more of a darker red. I would say Private Villa was surprisingly closer to In Bloom, but a little bit more pink leaning and with more of that golden shimmer. And lastly, for Holo Rain, here it is next to Holo Taco's Rainbow Snow, which does have these silver holographic hex glitters. Generally, these Holo Taco glitters are much more densely packed, so I tried doing a very thin coat here, and hopefully you can see that the glitters in Holo Taco are just much smaller. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons of Sylvanclaw's Succulent Garden collection. As always, I would love to know your thoughts on this lineup because I thought it was so fun. I really love how bright and colorful these shades were. Normally, I am very much like a seasonal wearer through and through, but this was just such a fun, bright pop of color that we normally don't see this early in like the winter season. So it's just nice to get something unexpected every now and then. But yeah, the formulas were fantastic across the board, and I was really feeling these new thermals, which I kind of hesitate getting excited about thermals because they just have a shorter shelf life. At some point, thermal polishes will stop transitioning. And when it comes to my personal collection with how many polishes I have, it's not the best finish because it's not something that I can go back and rewear a bunch of times. But if you are somebody who's just starting out your collection or you do rewear the same kind of shades over and over again, thermals are great because you're essentially getting a 2-in-1 polish. I think the first two shades, the thermals, were my favorites from this lineup. I just loved those bright colors. They were just so beautiful. They transition super easily. The peachy pink one is still really nice, but again, it is just more of a subtle transition where I normally would like something a little bit higher contrast, but it is still like a pretty polish on its own. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, the thermals are technically limited edition, so they're only going to be around while supplies last. But if there is enough demand, then Sylvanclaw will consider bringing these back, but in the cooler months. Like a lot of other indies, Sylvanclaw is not going to be selling their thermals during the spring and summer or the warmer months, just to avoid the potential of the thermal dying in transit. I know that might sound crazy because of course it's so far away to think of some of these polishes coming back in maybe September or October when it's still January, but it really is for the best when it comes to temperature sensitive polishes. And yeah, I thought the other polishes were really gorgeous too. I think my other favorite is Toxic Barb, just because it is so incredibly sparkly. I think I mentioned it during the voiceover that I'm not usually a fan of those like crescent shaped half moon glitters, but I think it's because I normally see them in like the macro shots and it's just the shape, that I'm not the biggest fan of. But actually trying them myself and seeing them at, a normal distance, they look really nice. And I'm pretty sure Toxic Barb is the same kind of finish as Pond-ering, where it has that glitter and shimmer combination. And I really love Pond-ering too. I think the shimmer in that is just so gorgeous. So I just am really loving this glitter shimmer combination from Sylvanclaw. I feel like it's just such a great balance of both of those elements because as you saw, the holo is hollowing in these glitters. And I just love that the shimmer is still really strong, but not overpowering or too subtle. So yeah, overall, just a fan of this lineup. It's just so bright and fun, and it just makes me look forward to spring. So if you are interested in any of these, they are already available on Sylvanclaw's website. Apologies for this video going up a little bit later than I wanted to, but I will have the website linked down below if you want to pick any of them up. But let me know if you did already or just what your thoughts are on this release. I would love to know your thoughts so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!